Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to create a blueprint for the puzzle. We're going to give it some controls, and once we press some keys, we're going to be able to rotate these objects. Right now it doesn't look too pretty, it's very snappy, but we got to start somewhere, and we're going to work our way up in the upcoming episodes. So let's get started. So we're going to start this off in a default third-person template in Unreal Engine 5. So let's right-click in the content folder, let's go to the blueprint classes, and let's create our first actor. And I'm going to call this BP puzzle, and this is where all the logic for this video will live inside of this blueprint. So let's pop this open, and inside of this blueprint I'm going to be adding a couple of static meshes. In this case I'm going to be using cubes, but you can use any mesh you like. And let me rescale this to, let's do like 0.1 in the Z, and let's do like 2 in the X-axis. So it would be something like this. Then let's go ahead and let's duplicate this 2 times. So we have cubes 1, 2, and 3. And let me actually rename these to be cube 3, cube 2, and cube 1. And so we're gonna have cube 1 on the left side, somewhere over here. And let's do 150. And then the other one is going to be on this side, minus 150. Okay, so we have this. You can use any type of components you want. You can use static meshes, skeletal meshes as well if you want. I'm going to be using static ones for this one. Now what I want to do is, when I am inside of the area of the puzzle, or at least maybe I have a specific area, I want to give the controls to this blueprint so I can control my key press events from inside of this blueprint. So I will add, for this example, I'm going to do a box collision. Later we're probably going to adjust this to be something different, but for now I will just simply have a box covering the entire area like this. So let's say we're going to do 400 by let's do 500, and the Z-axis should be good enough. Maybe let's lift this up a little bit, but shouldn't matter too much. Okay, so that's good. So let's give the controls to this actor. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to for now remove all of these nodes. I'm going to go to the box collision, and I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom till I find the events, the on begin overlap, and also we're going to add a end overlap for this box collision. So we're going to be doing a enable input. So we're going to enable an input, and we're also going to be doing a disable input as well. So whenever we overlap, we're going to do enable, and then we're going to disable this. Now I want to make sure that this is a character that is actually overlapping, not some other actor. So from the other actors, I'm going to go and cast to the BP third person character. So that's the character that I'm going to be using for this video, and only on success we are enabling the input, and we're going to be doing exactly the same thing for disabling as well. So it only disables when actually we leave the area, not some other random actor. Now we're also going to need a controller. So since this is a single player for now, later we're going to adjust this. We're going to be using get player controller with the index of 0, and that's going to be our controller. So we're going to be running something like this. Good. Okay, so far so good. Now let's go ahead, let's test this out. Let's do some keyboard Z key event, and I'm gonna copy and paste this a couple of times because I'm gonna have multiple different keys in this video. So we're gonna have 4 keys. So we're gonna have Z, we're gonna have X, we're gonna have C, and we're gonna have a V key event. Good. So far so good. Let's go ahead and let's do some prints. So let's just do Z key for now. And so we can actually test this out. So let's bring this blueprint into the level. Now there is one thing to keep in mind of. We want to make sure that we have been spawned outside of this box collision. Otherwise, if we're going to spawn inside of it, it's not going to trigger the on begin overlap event. We will have to leave it and then re-enter the area for this whole thing to work. So hit play. There's our puzzle. If we spam the Z key, nothing happens, but if we enter the area and spam the Z key, we can see the hello message. So that means that we have given the control, and again, outside of it, it no longer works. Inside of it, it again works. So that means we have given the control, and this part seems to be functioning just fine. Now, throughout these videos, we're going to be storing quite a few variables, and to keep things organized, let's go ahead and let's straight away create ourselves a structure. So I'm going to right click in the content browser, blueprint structure, and I'm going to call mine s_puzzle data. Let's open this up. Let's add 3 values for now. The first one is going to be called component, and this is going to be, in my case, these are going to be my cubes. You can use any other type of components, and so that you could use any type of component, I'm going to be using a scene component type for this variable, and this is going to allow us to store any component inside of this variable. Then the next one is going to be a start rotation, and this is going to have to be a rotator type, and this is basically going to tell us the rotation of the object. Whenever we're going to interact with this, we're going to have this value stored so that we know what was the starting position, and so how far away from this we need to rotate our object. And the last one is going to be simply rotation, and again it is going to be a rotator, and this is going to be the values of how much rotation needs to happen based on which key we press. And since we're going to have 4 keys, we're going to make sure that this variable right here is an array so that it can hold multiple values. Now this gives us a cannot parse value rotation string blah blah blah. Let's see, let's pop these open, giving us an error. Let's do 1 1 1. All good. Seems to be good. The default values don't really matter. Once I change these to 1 1 1 and back to 0 0 0, everything seems to be good to go. Okay, that's good. Let's go back inside of our BP puzzle and let's start storing some data. So new variable, and let's call this just data, and let's look for our puzzle data structure. Now this is going to need to be an array because we have multiple puzzle pieces. So we have 3 puzzle pieces for this specific puzzle. So we're going to have 3 entries inside of this array. Now we're going to need a couple of more variables. Let's straight away create them. So we're going to need is moving. So whenever our puzzle is moving, so that we cannot interact with it once more before it has finished its tasks. So this is going to be a Boolean value and a single variable. Then also we're going to need to know which key we pressed because we're going to have multiple keys. So another variable is going to be a rotation index, and this one is going to be an integer, like so. And I believe that's it for this episode. So let's go inside of our event graph and let's start working on some stuff. So first, let's create ourselves a event. So new custom event, and let's call this rotate stuff, because we're going to be rotating stuff. And so what we want to do over here is we want to grab our data, we're going to get the data, and we're going to do a loop for each. So we're going to go through all of our puzzle pieces like so. Now the next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and break the result. So break puzzle data. So we're going to get information about every single piece that we have, and our end goal is to set relative rotation. That is our end goal that we want to achieve because we are rotating a puzzle. Now for the locations, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the starting position, so where our puzzle piece is currently, and we're going to combine rotators. And that's going to be our end result for the rotation. Now what are we combining? We're going to combine a rotation, so we're going to get a copy from the entry that we provided based on the key we pressed, so our rotation index. That's going to be the value. Now this maybe doesn't make too much sense, so let's go ahead and let's actually provide these values that we have over here. So right click, let's do begin play event. And over here, our task is to fill up the data. So we're going to get our data variable and we're going to add a new entry to this, like this. So we have a new entry. We can go ahead and right click the structure to split it and provide the data. So the component is our cube. So we're going to grab our cube 1. That's going to be our component. The next piece is the starting rotation. So what we want to do is from the cube, we want to get relative rotation. Since we're going to be working in the relative space, we're going to be grabbing a relative rotation and we're going to be adding this to the start rotation. Now to rotate, we're going to make an array because we have 4 different keys that we can press, and so we're going to have 4 different rotations. So let's add 4 entries, And let's say for the cube 1, we want to rotate this in a specific direction, but first we need to know in which. So we can go ahead, select our cube, choose the rotation tool, and we can start rotating our object to see that in this case, we are rotating in the y-axis, like so. Okay, so that's good. So we know we need to go ahead and use the y-axis for this. Why does it turn to 360? Okay, whatever. Let's go inside of our event graph, and so we want to use y-axis. So let's say keyboard key Z is going to be the index 0, so we're going to rotate 10 in the y. If we're going to press X, it's going to be 25 degrees. If we're going to use 2, this is going to be, so in this case, C key, let's say minus 30, and with the V key, let's do minus 15. Some random values. We're going to adjust these values later on so we can actually have a proper working puzzle, but today we're going to have no finishing of the puzzle. There's going to be no way of finishing it, so we're just going to have some random values for now. Okay, so let's change these numbers up. So like 40, 15, minus 10, minus 25. Let's do 35. Let's leave it at 25. Let's do minus 15, minus 5. And what we need to do is we need to change the cube variable. So we're going to grab our cube 2, drop it on top of the second one. So we have cube 1, cube 2, and then we also need the cube number 3 as well, like so. Okay, so we have provided the data. So now based on the rotation index, so whatever key we're going to press, it is going to select a different value from our array to have a different rotation for that specific object. Now you can provide multiple values as well, but for this specific puzzle, since this is like a bridge one, I see no reason in having it. This is going to be the only rotation that we are really going to be using. Okay, so we have our data set up and we have our rotation set up. Now one more thing that we need to do is obviously first we're going to need to set up a rotation index. And also we're going to need to make sure that our puzzle is not moving right now. So I'm going to add another custom event and I'm going to go ahead and call this try rotate. And we're going to check if our puzzle is moving. So we're going to grab that, do an if, see if it's moving. And if it's not moving, if it's false, we're going to go ahead and say that now, okay, so it wasn't moving. So now it is going to be moving. And we're going to go ahead and create a rotation index as well. Now for the rotation index, we're going to grab this value and plug it in directly into the input of the node. So we can provide this different from any key press that we're going to do. So it's going to look something like this. So we have started moving, we have set the rotation index. So now let's go ahead and let's run our rotate stuff event like this. Good. Now we actually need to launch this, and we're going to be launching this from the key presses. So we can do try rotate, and we're going to do this from every single one of our key presses like so. Like this, and then we're going to provide indexes. So we're going to have index 0, index 1, index 2, and index number 3, like this. So now at this point, we have given the data on begin play to our puzzle about all the puzzle pieces. We have enabled input for this actor. We have set up some inputs. We are trying to rotate the puzzle if it's not in the motion right now. And if it's not in the motion, then we are actually applying the rotation. Now, right now, the puzzle is very snappy, and that's how it's going to stay at the end of this video, while we're going to add some smooth rotations later on in the upcoming episodes. So we have the completion, and we need to do a couple of tasks once we are done with rotating our puzzle. First and foremost, we need to set that it is no longer rotating. So we have to set this to false. Now, another thing is we need to update the start rotation position, the value. At this point inside of this code, it would make sense to do this at the end over here, but later we're going to have some smooth motions, and it's going to make no sense to do it over here anymore. So I'm going to think about future a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the data, and I'm going to do a loop for each once more, like this. And then at the end of this, we're going to grab our data once more, and we're going to set array element. So we're going to be changing a value. Now what we are going to change is we're going to grab our item, and we're going to make, no, not make, member, set members in the puzzle data. And so that's going to go through our execution line. And since we don't have to change all the properties, we're only going to change a specific property. So we can select our node. We're going to go ahead, show the defaults, and we want to change the start rotation. And that's all that we want to change. We don't want to change any other values. All the other values need to stay the same. So let's go ahead and let's set up our start rotation. So I'm going to go ahead and break the puzzle data. From the rotation, I'm going to get a copy, just like we did up there. And also we're going to grab the rotation index. And just like we did up there, we're going to do again exactly the same thing. We're going to go ahead and we're going to combine rotators like this. Once more. And then plug this in, and it's going to update the starting position. Now, like I said, it would make a lot of sense to do it over here, but we're going to do some adjustments for this piece in the upcoming episodes. And so that we don't have to touch this, we're going to set this up instantly right now. And the last thing left for us to do is plugging in the index for the set array element. And we can grab that from the loop over there at the beginning. So let's go ahead, let's do some small reroutes like this. And we are pretty much good to go. So we have reset the isMoving, we have changed the start rotation. So now we should be able to hit play and test this out. So let's go walk inside of the puzzle, press C. And as you can see, the puzzle pieces are rotating. Same with the X, same with the C, same with the V keys. So right now, as you can see, they are very snappy, but we are going to adjust these values in the upcoming episodes. And the puzzle is going to look way smoother. We're also going to have so the conditions once the puzzle has been finished, so something would happen. We're going to set up different cameras. We're going to have different controls, all kinds of possibilities to change this. And we're going to be able to reuse this exact blueprint throughout all kinds of different types of puzzles. So thank you for watching. If you learned something new and you want to learn more about puzzles, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And I see you in the next one.